March 3rd, around 3 o'clock. So they're finishing harvesting the rice on this part of the land. I don't know how much we harvested. So just we'll wait until the final count. The reason why we needed to have this done because the price for rice tomorrow, Saturday, is going to drop. Why would it drop, you ask? You might ask. So a lot of the warehouse are being filled with abundant amount of rice. So imagine you have an empty glass, it's being filled, and then that glass is now full. And one of the buyer's mitigation plan is to not buy at 18.50, buy it at lesser amount, for example 17. So that's the reason why I find this whole thing frustrating, is that the local monopoly, you know, their stomach is full. So they get first dibs, but then they don't allow much of the other province from entering into Isabela. So they want total monopoly. So that's one of the reasons why I just want to really remove that monopoly somehow. It's not fair to the farmer. I mean, you know, if that's one of the major reasons why a lot of farmers are planting early and so harvesting early to ensure they have some price that they can accept. The challenge with that is, you know, it's a balancing game, or it's a balance. It's not a game. So you plant early, but then you harvest less. But yeah, the price per kilo is 20, but then imagine you harvest 40 kabans per hectare. Yeah, it's 20. Your loss is huge. So you have to tailor your harvest or your planting to say, okay, well, I'll plant with the expression of a bountiful harvest at so and so price per kilo. So that's basically one of the things that drove me to schedule it this way. I balance it. I balance the need. So there's various balancing. You know, you have financial obligation. At the same time, you want to have price per kilo to be somewhat high. So that's, you know, that's it. Later on, once your financial obligation is fulfilled, then there's more ways to plan these activities. So right now I'm constrained to certain activities. I can only experiment as within a constraint that I had to deal with. So that's one of the reasons why I had to plant earlier than I would have liked. But that's the way it is. But then balance it with you know, instead of harvesting 100 kabans or 100 sacks per hectare. If your schedule is way off and you're getting, instead of 100, you got 40, or your loss is 60%. Whereas if you plant late a little bit, and so you're gaining like 50 to 60%. So so those are the trade-off. And the things that I'm also wanting to improve is getting up to 150 kaban sacks per hectare, 200, 250, then 300. I think I'm targeting the next improvement is to target the 100 sacks per hectare. I know I know that we can do it. So I think with some tests, some experiment, with lessons learned, I know we can achieve 300, close to 300 kabans, 300 sacks per hectare in the next several years. I believe it. So it's a matter of implementing failure mode, lessons learned, and then using some sort of failure mode analysis, feedback with lessons learned. So I'm thinking of instead of growing rice, as manufacturing rice. After all, that's manufacturing. So just that methodology. So it'll be fun a minute. However, in the next little while, there's a lot of things that I want to do still. For example, rice dryer. Really, the need for rice dryer is critical. So we'll see how that goes. And yeah, the next several crops should be quite interesting. So they're using this type of trucks to carry the rice, because I'm not sure how many kabans we have harvested so far, and they're really in a rush to get the rice brought over from here to the rice solar rice dryer. So a lot of the rice sack was done yesterday. So these are the other hectares that are being harvested. So this part of the land is being harvested. So I was talking to the agent. And certainly what will transpire with these is from this point A, point B will be the next province, Nueva Ecija. In fact, the kernels or panicles is in a state of dryness that they don't need to be dry. They can be delivered to Nueva Ecija. So when this happens, where there's no work done to dry them, it keeps its value. So one of the things that is important is keeping its value and improving it. That's why drying it. But when you dry it, you lose weight or mass, a loss of moisture. So so there's really an advantage to be a rice buyer, but then you have to have your initial outlay, funding the buying rice, and then have a piece of solar dryer. That's why it's really important to have a dryer. Not necessarily dependent on sun, but anyway, that's a long-term plan. And I've been voicing some thoughts and ideas about what can be done to improve prices. So as I progress with this planting rice, harvesting rice, plan it out, we'll see how it will transpire. I mean, when you look at long term, and certainly there will be a lot of failure, and from failure you learn what should be done to mitigate failure. One should fail to learn, and a person doesn't fail, that person is not learning. That's why failure mode is important. Understanding failure mode, one must fail. So that's the key to improving the rice, harvesting rice, improving yield, that sort of thing. One must fail. I mean, I've been failing the first. Well, I wouldn't call it fail, but my goal of having 300 sacks per hectare is certainly it's a failure, but you can't go from 0 to 300 sacks per hectare, isn't it? There has to be a start, even if you start at 0 or 40 kabans, 40 sacks. So yeah, I'm this go round, this first crop, I'm really excited, learning a lot. There's a lot of stress because there's financial obligation, and lack of funds, and then you have to do certain things to get the funds to continue. So that's a challenge. So if you want to go into rice, and you're from abroad and you want to get into this, make sure you have funds, because you will lose it. You will lose the funds. So